The planet Cytheria was a world of beauty and terror. Its skies glowed with two suns, and its lands were covered in sweeping plains, towering mountains, and deep mist-filled valleys. The Cytherians, a peaceful and intelligent race, had built cities that floated above the ground, connected by glowing bridges and energy currents. They were a civilization devoted to knowledge, art, and harmony, but that peace had ended. The Velkorians had arrived. A brutal empire of warriors and conquerors, they spread fear wherever they went. Their ships darkened the skies, their weapons destroyed cities in minutes, and their soldiers crushed any resistance with efficiency. The Cytherians had tried to fight, but their defensive forces were no match. In desperation, the Cytherian High Council made a decision they had never hoped they would have to take. A distress signal was sent across the galaxy. It was simple, urgent, and full of hope. Cytheria calls for aid. Our world is under attack by the Velkorians. Any civilization able to help, please respond. The signal traveled through space, a cry for help that many civilizations heard. Yet few responded. The major empires of the galaxy ignored it, thinking Cytheria could not survive. They considered it a minor battle, far from their interests. But far across the stars, the signal reached a planet that had long been underestimated, Earth. Earth was a harsh, wild world, full of challenges that had tested its inhabitants for generations. Its environments were deadly: dense jungles, scorching deserts, frozen wastelands, and oceans that could swallow entire cities. Humans had survived all of it. They had learned to adapt, to endure, and to thrive in conditions that would destroy most other life forms. They were called Deathworlders by the galactic community. To others, they seemed fragile. To those who knew, they were unstoppable. The distress signal arrived at the Earth Command Center, a massive structure buried deep underground, surrounded by layers of defenses and advanced technology. The leader of the Earth Fleet, Admiral Kane, studied the transmission. He was a tall man with hardened features and eyes that had seen countless battles. "They're asking for help," Kane said quietly, his voice calm but firm. "They expect diplomats, maybe light forces. They do not know who we are." A young officer, Lieutenant Mara, looked at him, curiosity in her eyes. "Sir, you mean humans?" Kane nodded. "We are Deathworlders, Lieutenant. We survive where others fail. We fight where others hesitate. If Cytheria wants aid, they will get it, just not in the way they imagine." By the time the Earth fleet prepared to leave, Cytheria was already under siege. The Velkorians' massive warships hovered over cities, their weapons firing relentless beams of energy. The Cytherian citizens huddled in shelters, praying for a miracle. On the surface of Cytheria, a young Cytherian scientist named Leora worked tirelessly. She monitored the city's defenses, watched the Velkorian movements, and calculated the chances of survival. Her hands shook as she typed commands into the control panel. Every calculation was worse than the last. "They're too strong," she whispered. "Our weapons can't hold them. We won't last until anyone arrives." Her assistant, a Cytherian named Rin, tried to reassure her. "The signal has been sent. Someone will come. We must hold on." But Rin, like Leora, could not help feeling the weight of the enemy's power. The Velkorians were unlike anything Cytherians had ever faced. Their ships were larger than the Cytherian cities themselves. Their weapons could pierce energy shields, and their soldiers were trained for endless combat. Then, one day, the sky changed. The Velkorians were ready to crush the last Cytherian defenses when a new fleet appeared on the horizon. The ships were rough-looking, not sleek or elegant like the Velkorians, but they radiated strength. Their hulls were scarred from countless battles. Their engines emitted low, powerful roars, and their formation was unlike any conventional military maneuver. Leora watched in disbelief. Who are they?" she whispered. "They are coming," Rin said, eyes wide. "Humans, Deathworlders." The first human ship landed on Cytheria's plains. Its metal surface was scratched and worn, but it carried an aura of resilience. From its hatch emerged humans, not in polished uniforms, but in battle gear that looked both primitive and lethal. They carried weapons that seemed simple, yet deadly in their efficiency. The Velkorians laughed, confident in their superiority. "More fools to destroy," one of their commanders said. But as the humans spread across the battlefield, that laughter turned to confusion. The humans did not fight like the Cytherians, nor like the Velkorians. They moved unpredictably, taking cover in terrain that should have slowed them. They set traps, ambushed enemy squads, and seemed to anticipate the Velkorians' every move. Their weapons were not the most advanced, but they were precise. Every strike counted. In the streets of a city under fire, Leora saw a human soldier grab a collapsed Zitharian citizen, dragging them to safety while firing at the enemy with his other hand. Another human scaled the side of a burning building to take out a Velkorian sniper, leaping from rooftop to rooftop with impossible agility. "They're amazing," Leora murmured. "They can survive anything." Meanwhile, Admiral Kane observed from the command deck of his flagship. His eyes scanned the battlefield, calculating, directing but never showing fear. He had been in countless battles, but each time humans faced overwhelming odds, they found a way to survive. "They will take the fight to them," Kane said, "and Zitharia will live." The Velkorians regrouped, sending more ships to confront the humans. Yet every attack failed. The Deathworlders adapted instantly, covering weak points, predicting movements, and turning even the planet's dangerous landscapes into weapons. Mountains became shields, rivers became traps, and deserts slowed the enemy while humans moved freely across them. In one dramatic moment, a human squad confronted a Velkorian strike team attempting to breach a city's main shield generator. The humans set explosive charges around the enemy, retreating behind jagged rocks. The Velkorians charged, expecting victory, but the explosions were not meant to destroy them directly. Instead, they triggered a landslide that buried the enemy under tons of rubble. The humans emerged from cover, unharmed, and moved on to their next target. Leora could hardly believe what she was witnessing. I never imagined beings like this," she whispered. "They survive everything. They are unstoppable." The Zitharians watched as the humans advanced. Hope, long forgotten, returned to their hearts. For the first time since the Velkorians arrived, they believed they could survive. High above the battlefield, the Velkorian commanders issued frantic orders. Their confidence shattered. They realized the humans were unlike anything they had faced. They had underestimated a species that thrived in danger, that adapted to death itself. By the end of the day, the humans had not only held their ground, they had turned the tide in key areas, saving cities that were moments from destruction. The Velkorians retreated temporarily, unwilling to face the humans head-on without a plan. As night fell on Zitharia, the two moons casting silver light across the scarred land, Leora and Rin walked through the streets, witnessing the human soldiers helping citizens, repairing shields, and moving silently but with purpose. "They are not here for glory," Leora said softly. "They are here to survive. And to save us," Rin nodded. "This is just the beginning. With them we have a chance." In the shadows, Admiral Kane observed from his ship. His face was calm, but his mind raced with strategy. He knew the Velkorians would return, stronger and more determined. But he also knew the humans of Earth, the Deathworlders, would be ready. For the first time in Zitharia's history, there was hope that the galaxy's most feared invaders could be stopped. And it was not the peaceful empires or the brilliant scientists who would do it. It was humans. The story of Zitharia's survival, and of the Deathworlders who had come unexpectedly, was only beginning. The next morning, Zitharia's cities were quiet, but the tension in the air was heavy. Smoke rose from broken buildings, and the streets were littered with debris. Yet hope lingered, carried on the shoulders of the humans who had arrived the day before. The Deathworlders moved with precision, surveying the damage, organizing defenses, and preparing for the Velkorians' inevitable return. In the plains outside the capital, a squad of humans led by Lieutenant Mara walked steadily through the tall grasses. She was a fierce warrior, trained in the harshest conditions on Earth. Her eyes scanned the horizon, noting every detail: the shadow of an approaching ship, the reflection of the suns on distant metal, the way the wind moved the grasses. Beside her, Sergeant Holt, a veteran of countless battles, adjusted his weapon and checked his squad. "The Velkorians won't wait long," he said. "We need to hit them before they regroup." Mara nodded. "We don't just survive here. We fight smart, like we always do." Meanwhile, in the capital city, Admiral Kane coordinated the larger human forces from his flagship. The human ships were spread across the skies and plains, creating a network of coverage that even the Velkorians had difficulty understanding. The humans did not fight like other civilizations. They adapted, using the planet itself as a weapon. Leora and Rin watched from a high vantage point as humans moved with calculated purpose. "They know this land better than we do," Leora whispered. Every move is planned, yet seems natural. Rin frowned. It is frightening, but inspiring. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground. Mara's squad had encountered a small Velkorian patrol moving to test the humans' defenses. The patrol was confident, its soldiers moving in formation, weapons glowing. But the humans did not panic. Mara signaled her squad. They fanned out using the tall grasses and broken rocks as cover. Sergeant Holt activated a small device, releasing a cloud of smoke that confused the Velkorian sensors. The enemy faltered, unsure of what they were seeing. In a series of quick, precise movements, the humans struck. One by one, Velkorian soldiers fell, disarmed or incapacitated by weapons that were simple but effective. Mara herself leapt over a fallen tree, knocking the last enemy soldier unconscious without harming him unnecessarily. Back in the city, Leora saw the same scene repeated in other areas. Humans moved through streets, alleys, and damaged buildings, finding the enemy and defeating them in ways Zetherians could not have imagined. They used environmental hazards to their advantage, collapsed bridges, unstable rooftops, and even the planet's shifting winds. They are more than soldiers, Leora said, awe in her voice. They are problem solvers. They survive, adapt, and protect others. Admiral Kane monitored the battlefield through the ship's sensors. The Velkorians are trying to regain control, he said. But they don't understand the humans yet. They see strength, but they don't see resilience. The Velkorians were not easily defeated. From their massive warships, they launched new attack waves, targeting human squads and Zytherian cities. Energy beams tore through the sky and fire rained down on the plains. Many Zytherians panicked, unsure if they could survive another assault. Yet the humans moved calmly, using tactics that seemed unconventional, but worked perfectly. Mara's squad set up a trap near a canyon where Velkorian ships tried to land troops. They detonated explosives at precise locations, sending rocks and debris crashing down on the enemy. The Velkorians' formations were broken, and their soldiers struggled to regain order. Sergeant Holt looked at Mara with a grin. They think they're the masters of war. They haven't met humans yet. As the battle continued, the humans demonstrated more than combat skill. They repaired damaged energy shields, rescued trapped Zytherians, and coordinated counterattacks. Leora saw a group of humans lifting fallen Zytherian civilians onto their backs, moving them to safety while keeping watch for enemy soldiers. They fight, she whispered, but they also care. High above the battlefield, a human shuttle descended. Inside were engineers and strategists planning the next move. They used the planet's terrain, enemy weaknesses, and Zytherian intelligence to craft strategies that even the Velkorians could not predict. On the ground, Mara's squad encountered a Velkorian war machine, a massive armored walker designed to crush anything in its path. The squad hid behind rocks, studying it carefully. Mara raised her hand. We don't attack it head-on. We use what we have. Follow my lead. The humans lured the machine toward a canyon filled with sharp rocks and unstable ground. Using precise timing, they detonated explosives, causing the canyon floor to collapse. The walker fell into the crevice, trapped but not destroyed. The humans moved quickly, using ropes and cables to disable its weapons while staying out of range. Leora and Rin watched in amazement. We could never have done this, Rin said. They are beyond what we imagined. As the day turned to evening, the Velkorians began retreating. They were not defeated completely, but they were forced to regroup and reconsider their strategy. For the first time, the invaders realized that humans were not like other races. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and dangerous. In the city, the humans gathered Zytherians and helped them rebuild temporary shelters. They shared supplies, comforted the wounded, and organized patrols to prevent further attacks. Leora walked among them, noting how humans worked together seamlessly. They survive because they work together, she said. Every move is deliberate, every action meaningful. Mara returned to her squad after leading a counterattack that destroyed a Velkorian communications post. She looked at the horizon where the enemy was retreating. This is only the beginning, she said. They will come back. We need to be ready. Sergeant Holt nodded. And we will be. We always are. Admiral Kane sent a message to Zytherian leadership. Your world is not defenseless. We are here. We will stay until the threat is gone. Trust in us. Leora read the message aloud to her fellow scientists and citizens. A wave of relief swept through them. For the first time since the Velkorians arrived, hope was not just a dream. It was real. Night fell on Zytheria, and the human forces set up camp. Fires burned safely within protective barriers, and humans maintained watch with disciplined precision. Their presence was a silent promise. As long as they remained, Zytheria would survive. Even as some Zytherians slept, the humans continued preparing. Mara studied maps of the battlefield. Holt checked weapons and traps, and Kane oversaw strategy for the next day. They knew the Velkorians would return stronger, but they also knew one undeniable fact. Humans never gave up, never surrendered, and never feared death. Leora looked up at the stars, where more ships might come, and whispered, "If humans fight for us, maybe we can survive anything." Rin placed a hand on her shoulder. "They are not like anything we've ever known. They are the galaxy's wild force, forged in danger, hardened by survival. Zytheria is lucky they answered our call." High above, the human flagship glided silently through the dark sky. Kane observed the distant Velkorian fleet, a small smile on his face. He did not speak to anyone. He did not need to. The humans had already begun to show their true power. On the plains, Mara's squad gathered around a small fire. The humans spoke little, focusing on the lessons from the day. Each soldier knew their duty, each understood the risks, and each was ready for what was to come. The Velkorians had arrived thinking they could conquer, but they had underestimated Earth's children, the Deathworlders. Zytheria had asked for help, and the galaxy had delivered in a way no one expected. The story of the humans on Zytheria was only beginning, but one thing was clear. The Velkorians would never forget the day the Deathworlders arrived, and Zytheria would never see humans the same way again. The morning sun rose over Zytheria, casting light on a planet scarred by battle. Smoke still drifted from cities, and the air was thick with the scent of burned metal and dust. But the mood was different than the day before. The humans, Earth's Deathworlders, had shown the Zytherians that survival was possible, and that hope could exist even in the darkest times. In the plains outside the capital, Lieutenant Mara and her squad moved with purpose. They were no longer merely defending. They were preparing to strike. Every human had studied the enemy's patterns, learned the terrain, and understood Zytheria's strengths and weaknesses. The Velkorians had made a critical mistake. They assumed humans would fight like other civilizations. They were wrong. "Today we take the fight to them," Mara said, addressing her squad. Her voice was calm but firm, every word carrying authority. "We will show them that survival is not enough. We fight, we adapt, and we win." Sergeant Holt checked his equipment, nodding. "They won't see us coming. That's how we always win." Meanwhile, in the capital, Admiral Kane oversaw the coordination between the humans and Zytherian forces. The Zytherians, inspired by the humans' courage and skill, worked to repair their city's defenses and gather intelligence on the Velkorians. They had begun to understand that these humans were different. They did not panic, did not hesitate, and never gave up. Leora, the Zytherian scientist, approached Kane on the flagship. "Your soldiers, they are incredible. They think differently, act differently, and survive differently. How can they be so effective?" Kane smiled slightly. "We have to be. On Earth, everything wants to kill us. We learn to adapt, to survive, and to protect others. That's what you're seeing here." The first signs of the Velkorians' return appeared in the distance. Ships appeared on the horizon, larger and more numerous than before. Energy weapons glinted under Zytheria's suns. But the humans were ready. Using the planet's rugged terrain, they had laid traps, created ambush points, and prepared to strike in ways the Velkorians could not predict. Mara's squad led a small strike team through a canyon, knowing that the Velkorians were planning to deploy troops there to flank Zytherian cities. The canyon was narrow, jagged, and dangerous, but humans thrived in danger. They moved silently, their weapons ready and their eyes alert to every sound. From above, a human shuttle guided the team, providing real-time information. Sensors detected Velkorian troops moving toward their trap. Mara signaled her squad. "Wait for my mark. Patience is our advantage." The Velkorians advanced, confident in their numbers. They had never faced humans like these before, and their arrogance would be their weakness. When the humans struck, it was sudden and precise. Explosives hidden among rocks and cliffs sent boulders crashing down, blocking the enemy's path. Human soldiers attacked with speed, disabling enemy weapons and capturing key positions. The canyon echoed with the sounds of battle, metal clashing, energy beams firing, and shouts of determination. Mara herself took down 2 Velkorian soldiers, using agility and speed rather than brute force. The Velkorians, trained to expect conventional attacks, were caught off guard by the humans' unpredictability. Meanwhile, in the city, another human squad led by Sergeant Vance helped Zetherians evacuate civilians while defending against Velkorian scouts. They moved through rubble-strewn streets using their surroundings as shields and weapons. A collapsing building became an obstacle for the enemy, not the humans. A flooded canal became a trap. Every element of Zetheria was turned into an advantage under human strategy. Leora observed from a high tower. She saw humans rescuing children trapped in destroyed buildings, guiding elderly Zetherians to safety and coordinating attacks seamlessly. Their courage was matched by their intelligence, and their presence inspired the Zetherians to fight alongside them. They don't just fight for themselves, Leora said softly. They fight for everyone. That is why they are extraordinary. High above Zetheria, Admiral Kane directed human air support, coordinating strikes that disabled Velkorian ships attempting to provide reinforcements. Every attack was calculated, efficient, and precise. Unlike the Velkorians, humans did not waste energy or resources. They used what they had to achieve maximum effect. The Velkorians, realizing their usual tactics were failing, deployed elite units to target human squads. Mara and her team anticipated this. Using the canyon's natural cover and preset traps, they lured the elite units into vulnerable positions. Explosives, combined with human skill and strategy, incapacitated the Velkorians without unnecessary destruction. Sergeant Holt looked at Mara, impressed. They're learning too slowly. Humans adapt faster than they can react. Yes, Mara replied. That's always been our strength. As the day progressed, the humans coordinated with Zetherian forces for a larger counterattack. Using intelligence gathered from previous battles, they planned a synchronized strike against Velkorian command posts, supply lines, and reinforcements. Zetherian soldiers, inspired by the humans' fearlessness, moved with confidence they had never felt before. In the capital, Kane and Leora observed the Velkorians' retreating forces. They are being pushed back, Kane said. But they will return. We must be ready, Leora nodded. I understand now why you survived for so long. You do not rely on strength alone. You rely on ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. That is what makes you unstoppable. The humans did not celebrate victory. They knew the battle was far from over. Instead, they focused on reinforcing positions, preparing for the next engagement, and ensuring Zetherians were safe. Even small human squads operated with precision, always alert, always ready. In one remarkable moment, Mara's squad discovered a group of Velkorian prisoners, Zetherians captured during previous attacks. Without hesitation, they devised a plan. Using stealth traps and coordinated strikes, they infiltrated the Velkorian camp and freed the prisoners. The Zetherians looked at their rescuers in awe. Realizing that these humans did not fear danger, they embraced it. High above, Kane monitored the operation from the flagship. He smiled slightly. Another lesson in survival, he said quietly. Even as the Velkorians began to regroup on distant battlefields, humans continued to set traps, scout enemy positions, and reinforce Zetherian defenses. The combination of human resilience, strategy, and courage began to turn the tide. The Velkorians, once confident in their victory, now faced an enemy that could not be predicted or easily defeated. At night, the humans gathered around small fires, checking weapons and planning for the next day. They shared no complaints, only strategies and lessons learned. Their discipline and determination inspired Zetherians who watched from a distance, learning how to fight, survive, and adapt from the humans. Leora walked among the humans, quietly observing. They are unlike any other species, she whispered to Rin. They survive where others would fail. They fight where others would hide. They are extraordinary, Rin nodded. Yes, and they are here for us. We are witnessing something no one in the galaxy would have expected. The Deathworlders of Earth have arrived, and they are changing everything. In the distance, Velkorian ships glimmered under Zetheria's moons, preparing for another assault. Yet the humans were ready. Mara's squad moved silently through the plains. Sergeant Holt patrolled the perimeter, and Kane oversaw the coordination of all forces. Humans were not just fighting. They were teaching the Zetherians to fight. to survive and to hope. The story of Zetheria's survival continued, and it was clear the Deathworlders of Earth were unlike any other beings in the galaxy. They adapted, they endured, and they inspired. And as the Velkorians prepared for their next attack, they could not have known the full extent of the humans' strength, determination, and ingenuity. The humans were more than warriors, they were a force of nature, forged in the harshest conditions, ready to defend a world they had never known. Zetheria would survive not just because of hope, but because humans had chosen to fight for it, and the Velkorians would learn, in ways they could not imagine, that humans were a force that could not be stopped. The morning on Zetheria was tense yet alive with preparation. Humans and Zetherians moved together like a single unit, each understanding their role in the coming battle. This was not just defense, it was a counterattack. The Velkorians, who had crushed Zetheria's cities before, were about to face something far stronger than they had expected. Lieutenant Mara surveyed her squad as they gathered in the plains near a canyon that would serve as a critical ambush point. Her eyes swept over the terrain, jagged rocks, steep cliffs, and narrow passes that could trap the Velkorians' heavily armed units. Every detail mattered. "Today we change everything," Mara said, her voice steady. "We fight smart and we fight together. Remember, this is not just for survival. This is for every life Zetheria has lost and every hope we can save." Sergeant Holt adjusted his gear and nodded. "They will regret underestimating humans. Always do." In the city, Admiral Kane coordinated with Zetherian leaders. The humans had taught the Zetherians how to set defenses, how to use terrain as a weapon, and how to anticipate enemy movements. Zetherians, once hesitant and fearful, now moved with courage and purpose. They began building barricades, organizing patrols, and preparing energy traps, all guided by humans. Leora, standing beside Rin, watched in awe. "It is incredible," she said. "They turn the land itself into a weapon. They do not fight blindly. They calculate, they adapt, and they inspire us to do the same." Rin nodded, his eyes fixed on the distant Velkorian fleet. "They are not just soldiers. They are the galaxy's unexpected force." The Velkorians, meanwhile, had regrouped. Their pride was wounded, and they were determined to crush the humans and Zetherians alike. Massive warships hovered above the plains, sending energy beams that scorched the earth. Elite strike teams were deployed, confident that they could overpower the defenders. But the humans were ready. Mara's squad waited patiently in the canyon. Sergeant Holt activated sensors and motion detectors, monitoring the Velkorian movements. When the enemy entered the trap zone, Mara gave the signal. Explosives hidden in rocks and cliffs detonated with perfect timing, causing boulders to fall on the advancing Velkorians. Panic spread through the enemy ranks as the humans attacked from multiple angles. Arrows and energy bolts flew, and the Velkorians found themselves trapped, struggling to adapt to a battlefield they could not control. Mara herself moved like a shadow through the chaos, disabling enemy weapons and rescuing a Zetherian civilian trapped under debris. Sergeant Holt coordinated a secondary attack, cutting off enemy retreat paths. Within minutes, the Velkorian elite units were defeated, their formation broken. High above, Admiral Kane directed human air units, targeting Velkorian ships attempting to reinforce their troops. Every strike was calculated, efficient, and devastating. The Velkorians' confidence began to falter. They had never faced an enemy that combined adaptability, courage, and strategy so effectively. In the city, human squads worked alongside Zetherians to defend key positions while planning their next move. They repaired shields, evacuated civilians, and coordinated counterattacks. The Zetherians were learning quickly, inspired by the humans' discipline and bravery. Leora observed a remarkable scene. A human soldier carried a wounded Zetherian child across the battlefield while fending off Velkorian attackers. Another human guided a group of Zetherian citizens to safety, using agility and speed to avoid enemy fire. Their actions were not random. They were precise, deliberate, and heroic. "They fight for us," Leora whispered to Rin. "Not for glory, but because they will not let anyone die if they can prevent it." Rin nodded. "That is why they are unstoppable. Their courage is not reckless, it is calculated. They survive, adapt, and inspire. We are witnessing something beyond imagination." The Velkorians, realizing that conventional attacks would fail, deployed their heaviest war machines to crush the humans. Mara's squad anticipated this. setting traps and guiding the enemy into positions where the terrain favored the defenders. A massive Valkorian walker advanced toward the canyon, unaware of the humans' plan. When it reached the narrowest point, Mara's team detonated a series of explosives, causing the ground beneath the walker to collapse. The machine fell into a deep crevice, immobilized. Human soldiers quickly disabled its weapons, rendering it useless. The Valkorians' morale dropped further as they realized that even their most powerful machines could be defeated with strategy and ingenuity. Meanwhile, in the air, human pilots used the planet's winds, magnetic fields, and rocky cliffs to evade enemy fire and strike at Valkorian ships. Their movements were unpredictable, precise, and deadly. Even the most experienced Valkorian pilots struggled to anticipate their attacks. By midday, the humans had achieved a significant advantage. Zetherian cities were no longer in immediate danger, and enemy forces were scattered. The humans did not rest. They repaired defenses, rescued the wounded, and prepared for the next phase. Mara and her squad moved through the plains, checking traps and scouting for remaining Valkorian units. They communicated silently, using hand signals and gestures honed through years of training. Every move was purposeful, every action deliberate. Sergeant Holt looked at the horizon where more Valkorian reinforcements were approaching. "They are coming back," he said, "but they don't know what's waiting for them." "Yes," Mara replied. "We will be ready. We always are." In the capital, Leora and Rin coordinated with human engineers to strengthen city defenses. Zetherian soldiers were learning quickly, moving confidently under the guidance of their human allies. Even children and elders were given roles to support the defense inspired by the humans' courage. As evening fell, the humans regrouped around small fires, reviewing the day's battle. They spoke quietly, sharing lessons and strategies. Their discipline was unmatched, their focus unwavering. Zetherians observed, taking mental notes and learning from the humans' example. Leora looked around at the humans. "They are beyond anything we have ever known," she whispered. "They survive where others would fail. They fight where others would hide. They inspire courage in everyone they meet." Rin nodded. "And they do it without arrogance. They do not seek praise, only survival and protection. That is their strength." High above, Admiral Kane monitored the distant Valkorian fleet. The enemy would return, but he was confident. Humans did not panic, did not falter, and did not give up. They were adaptable, resilient, and courageous, traits forged by generations of surviving Earth's harshest conditions. The Valkorians, watching from their ships, began to understand their mistake. They had underestimated humans. They had assumed that Zetheria's request for help would bring conventional allies, not beings who thrived in danger, adapted to every challenge, and could turn any situation into an advantage. Night fell, and Zetheria's skies glimmered with distant stars. The humans continued their patrols, their movements precise and deliberate. Mara's squad checked the canyon traps. Holt's team reinforced defensive positions, and Kane coordinated air and ground operations. The humans had transformed the planet from a place of despair into a stronghold of hope. The Zetherians, inspired by the humans, began to see themselves differently. They could fight, they could survive, and with humans by their side, they might even win. Leora walked through the city streets, watching humans helping Zetherians rebuild temporary shelters and medical stations. "They are not just warriors," she said softly. "They are teachers, protectors, and heroes, and they do it without expecting anything in return." Rin looked at the distant Valkorian ship still hovering beyond reach. "They will come again," he said. "But humans will be ready. Zetheria will be ready." Mara's squad rested for a moment, sitting quietly on a ridge overlooking the plains. The humans spoke little, but their expressions reflected calm determination. They had faced overwhelming odds before, and they would do so again. Sergeant Holt glanced at Mara. "Another day like this, and the Valkorians won't know what hit them." Mara smiled faintly. "Exactly. We fight, we survive, and we protect. That is what it means to be human." Above, Kane watched the stars, knowing the final battles were yet to come. But he had no fear. Humans did not fear. They adapted. They survived. And on Zetheria, they had already begun to change the course of history. The story of the Deathworlders on Zetheria continued, and the Valkorians would soon learn that humans were more than invaders could ever predict. They were a force of nature, unstoppable and relentless, capable of survival, adaptation, and triumph against impossible odds. And Zytheria would live, not by luck, not by magic, but by the skill, courage, and determination of the humans who had answered its call. The sun rose over Zytheria, painting the plains and cities in golden light. The humans were ready. For days they had fought, adapted, and inspired the Zytherians. Now the final confrontation with the Velkorians loomed. This battle would determine the fate of the planet, and humans knew that their strategy and courage would be the deciding factors. Lieutenant Mara walked among her squad, inspecting their weapons and checking the traps laid in advance. Every detail mattered, from the placement of explosives to the timing of the attack. Her eyes met those of Sergeant Holt, who gave a confident nod. They don't know what's coming, and they never will. In the capital, Admiral Kane coordinated the defense and counterattack from the flagship. Human ships were positioned strategically in the skies, while squads on the ground guarded key cities and supply points. Zytherian forces, inspired and guided by humans, were ready to fight alongside them. Leora and Rin observed the humans' preparations from a high tower. Leora whispered in awe, "They are not just warriors. They are teachers, leaders, and protectors. They carry hope wherever they go." Rin nodded. "And they will not fail. Humans never do." The first signs of the Velkorians appeared on the horizon. Massive warships and hundreds of strike units advancing across the plains. They had learned nothing from the previous battles. Their arrogance remained, and they assumed their numbers and firepower would overwhelm the defenders. But the humans had turned the planet into a fortress. Traps were laid across the plains, streets, and canyons. Every path was prepared to channel the Velkorians into zones where humans had the advantage. Every soldier knew the terrain, the enemy's weaknesses, and their own capabilities. Mara's squad moved toward a critical canyon where a major Velkorian unit would pass. The humans were calm, confident, and precise. Sergeant Holt activated motion sensors, alerting the team to the approaching enemy. Mara gave the signal. Explosives hidden in rocks and cliffs detonated at the perfect moment, blocking the enemy's advance and creating chaos in their ranks. Human soldiers struck from multiple angles, using agility, timing, and strategy rather than brute force. The Velkorians struggled to adapt, their formations breaking apart as humans disabled weapons, captured units, and guided Zytherians to safety. In the city, Sergeant Vance led a squad to secure energy nodes and critical structures. Zytherians worked alongside them, repairing defenses and evacuating civilians. The humans had taught them to fight smart, and Zytherians now moved with confidence and courage. From the skies, human pilots engaged Velkorian ships using the planet's winds, cliffs, and magnetic fields to their advantage. They struck precisely, avoiding enemy fire, and coordinated with ground forces to create maximum disruption. Even the Velkorians' most advanced ships struggled to anticipate human movements. Admiral Kane observed the battle from the flagship. "They thought they could overwhelm us with numbers," he said quietly. "But humans are more than numbers. They are ingenuity, courage, and resilience in action." Mara's squad led a coordinated strike against a Velkorian command post. Using a combination of explosives, stealth, and careful planning, they incapacitated the enemy's communications and disabled key weapons. The Velkorians were disoriented, unsure how to respond to attacks from unpredictable angles. Sergeant Holt smiled. "Every step we take is teaching them a lesson they'll never forget." Meanwhile, Zytherian forces, emboldened by human guidance, attacked Velkorian reinforcements. Energy shields were repaired, barricades strengthened, and civilians were protected. Zytherians were no longer passive observers. They had become active participants, inspired by the humans' bravery and strategy. High above, Leora watched as humans rescued trapped Zytherians while engaging enemy soldiers. One human carried a wounded child across a battlefield strewn with debris, dodging enemy fire with precision. Another guided a group of elderly Zytherians to safety, all while keeping enemies at bay. Every act was deliberate, calculated, and heroic. "They fight for us," Leora said softly. "Not for glory, but for survival and protection. That is why they are extraordinary." Rin nodded. "And they are teaching us to be extraordinary as well." The Velkorians, frustrated and desperate, deployed their heaviest war machines. Mara's squad anticipated this, luring the machines into prepared zones. Explosives and terrain traps immobilized the walkers. while humans disabled their weapons and captured critical components. In the skies, human pilots performed daring maneuvers, disabling Valkorian ships with speed and precision. Every movement was unpredictable, every strike deadly. Even the Valkorians' best units were forced to retreat or be destroyed. By mid-afternoon, the Valkorians were scattered, their morale shattered. Humans and Zytherians moved together, pushing the enemy back across the plains. Mara led her squad through a final engagement, rescuing trapped Zytherians and disabling remaining Valkorian units. Sergeant Holt provided cover, ensuring that no one was left behind. Admiral Kane observed the battlefield. They believed Zytheria would be easy, he said. But humans do not believe in easy. They adapt, survive, and protect. That is why they are unstoppable. In the capital, humans coordinated a final strike. Energy nodes and defensive positions were used to channel the remaining Valkorians into traps. Explosives, combined with human strategy and Zytherian participation, destroyed enemy units and forced the Valkorians into retreat. Leora and Rin watched as the last Valkorian ship fled the planet. Humans stood on the plains, calm and ready, ensuring that no enemy could regroup. Zytherians surrounded them, cheering, inspired, and filled with hope. Mara lowered her weapon and looked at the battlefield. "This is what survival looks like," she said. "Not just fighting, but protecting, inspiring, and adapting. Today we won because we never stopped believing we could." Sergeant Holt nodded. "And they will remember us. The Valkorians will remember Earth's Deathworlders and think twice before underestimating them again." Admiral Kane addressed Zytherian leaders through the communication system. "Your planet is safe. The Valkorians will not return. Zytheria has fought with courage, and humans have shown that even the impossible can be overcome when courage, intelligence, and determination are united." Leora spoke to Rin quietly. "They have changed everything. We will never see humans the same way again. They are not just soldiers. They are heroes, teachers, and protectors. Zytheria owes its survival to them," Rin nodded, "and we will remember. The galaxy will know that when humans come, they bring hope, courage, and victory." As the sun set, the humans assisted Zytherians in rebuilding the damaged cities. They repaired structures, tended to the wounded, and ensured that no one was left behind. Their work was tireless, their dedication absolute. Mara's squad stood on a ridge overlooking the plains, watching the horizon. They had fought battles before on their home planet, on other worlds, and in impossible conditions. But Zytheria had tested them in ways they had never imagined. And they had not just survived, they had triumphed. Sergeant Holt looked at Mara. "Another world saved. Another victory for humans. They will tell stories about this for generations." Mara smiled faintly. "Not for glory, for survival, for protection. That is why humans fight and why they win." High above, Kane watched the last Valkorian ships disappear into space. Humans had shown what they were capable of: courage, intelligence, adaptability, and a relentless will to survive and protect others. Zytheria was safe, and its people would never forget the humans who had come when no one else could. Leora and Rin approached Mara and Holt. "Thank you," Leora said. "You have saved our world. You have inspired us to be stronger, braver, and wiser. Your courage will be remembered forever." Rin nodded. "You are more than we imagined. You are extraordinary." Mara shook her head. "We are just humans. We survive, we fight, and we protect. That is what we do." As night fell, the humans continued their watch, ensuring that Zytheria remained safe. Fires burned safely within protective barriers, and Zytherians slept more peacefully than they had in months. The story of Zytheria's survival spread across the planet, and the Valkorians would never forget the day the Deathworlders of Earth came. Humans had arrived, and they had changed everything. They had proven that survival, intelligence, courage, and determination were not just traits. They were a force that could alter the fate of entire worlds. And Zytheria would thrive, inspired by the humans who had shown them the true meaning of hope, bravery, and strength. The galaxy would remember Earth's Deathworlders,